Hello everybody, and welcome to the LJL officially unofficial cast coverage of the LJL 2020 summer split. I am your host, Alex, otherwise known as Lexi, go by Mars Swan on the internet, and I'm of course joined by the fantastic Sam, Initialize, Hapgood, and the brilliant Alex, otherwise known as Nymera. Hapgood, yes, that's right, the Hapgood brother duo. Gentlemen, welcome to the cast. As always, we've got some LJL games to cover.
Who is this guy? Why is he on call with us? I've never heard of this masked one. Who is he?
I don't know. I woke up this morning and I was just in this chair.
I know. Why am I here?
Feels like my only purpose is to cast LJL.
Gentlemen, we have got to bring us our 4-game coverage, the opening 4 games of the LJL split. We're going to be giving you coverage of the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming facing off against Burning Core. After that, we're going to get V3 Esports facing off against the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks Gaming. Following that is going to be our match of the week for week 3. That's going to be Detonation Focus Me facing off against V3 Esports. And then to round us out, we've got Burning Core facing off against Detonation Focus Me. We got some pretty stacked matches happening, and we've got some real interesting lower down the tables games to decide where things are happening as well.
And after Burning Core had a pretty significant increase in form last week, I'm wondering to see how they stand up to this tougher competition they'll be facing this week. You know, facing off against the undefeated V3 in Game 2 is going to be a tough ask. If they don't win, but they show us something, I'll still be happy with them. And, let me see something there. Oh no, they're facing off against DFM, not V3.
Yeah,
sorry. This is still a similar story. Facing off against these upper table teams, it's about again benchmarking. Every game we see is another data point in these in our opinions of them.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely seems to be this kind of almost divide of two sides of the table. You've got the upper bracket and the lower bracket. Lower bracket, though, can totally make playoffs and make a deep run regardless, so there's still everything to play for these teams which haven't got a positive win record at this moment in time. Let's take it over to our first game here, though. Initialize.
Hello, sir.
The Hawks facing off against Burning Core. You must be excited to see some jungle action happening with Tussle and Once here.
Big time. Once and Ray Farkey in the last couple games were huge for Burning Core. Kind of the other side, it was Tussle and Dash who have been the shining light for the Hawks. So it'll be jungle duos in various forms. I think there will be a huge point of pressure on both of these teams.
Yeah, Once happened to get our podcast MVP across.
So damn good.
A few, not all of us, but 2 of us. Not the majority MVP, as Nymera had a.
No, he got the majority MVP, just not unanimous MVP.
Oh, unanimous, that's the word I meant. Yes, absolutely fair. Very fair. But had a very strong showing regardless, and was your backup MVP as well, so.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so
Guy's a monster. Guy's a monster.
Now, let's actually move over to that mid lane that Nymera, that Initialize rather, had hinted towards. And Dasher is facing against some new competition, but what are we expecting to see from Yu-Gi-Oh in this game?
Yu-Gi-Oh plays a lot of supports to back up his jungler in Once. I'm flubbing my words too now. And we saw that when Once was playing the Kindred, playing the Echo, he'd play something like a Lulu, play something like a Karma or something like that as well.
Yep.
Just to make sure that there are extra threats around the board which are still buffed up in this meta where you can buff up single or double carries. Whereas on the other side, we've got Dasher. Dasher loves to play aggressive, but he loves to take control of a game at some point or other. Get to a point in power. We can either 1v1 or team fight just to the end of the game. So Dasher, I think he's happy taking a farm matchup still just to get into that later stage in the game, much like we saw CGA do versus Burning Core.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting place. Now, gentlemen, before we go any further, I do want to rip that Band-Aid off and ask you both, who do you think is going to win it? Initialize, I'm going to come to you first, sir.
I'm going to say Burning Core, but I can see how the Hawks have an in.
Okay. Nymera?
I'm also going to go with Burning Core. I think that across the board they've been slightly more consistent. I think that the Hawks have snowballed really well, but you know, you actually have to outplay to get to the snowball first, and there is an equal chance that goes wrong for them.
Okay, 3 for Burning Core from all of us. I do have to agree, and let's expand on our reasons a little bit before we go into the pick and ban phase. I just feel like their consistency, like you said, has been a little bit stronger, and potentially they're playing around their substitute of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a bit easier for the team, or they at least have found maybe some form of formula in my head. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I'm kind of there with you. I'm also kind of watching two stylistic discrepancy where Wanton and Rayfaki are very strong for Burning Core, and Aramik has not been a good weak-sided player. That is a point of pressure for Burning Core, and I could well see that exploited. On the other side for Hawks, though, Tussle and Dasher have generally played the mid 2v2 pretty well. They got just about outplayed by CGA, and that kind of put them in a difficult position. But you saw the thinking there, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Versus V3 did kind of get put under the cosh a little bit in that 2v1 scenario in mid lane. So when Dash is your carry...
Okay, so that's interesting. But, question is, to Nymera, we're going to attack their weak points, either through top lane or mid lane, Hawks or Burning Core. But what about that bot lane? What is going to happen with that bot lane, Nymera?
It depends whether Yuhi gets Aphelios, really. And we've talked about this quite a bit. And as much as we laugh now, it is something which we've noticed. Yuhi has failed to make an impact on various meta AD carries besides that Aphelios. He did have a Callista game as well, and even then he was more of a role player than a main carry in his team. I'm looking for once to get onto a carry jungler. I'm looking for some support across the board, across the map, rather. And I want Rayfaki on something that can get pressure inside lanes too. Something like a Jace, something like a Wukong, something that can... again, punish Adamek, who we know can suffer on the weak side of the map, and I want to see Burning Core play around these points of pressure.
So what we're saying is the Hawks definitely have a chance in here if the mid-jungle duo get there, or the bot lane even if Aphelios isn't picked up, but Burning Core have multiple tools to potentially find a victory. Everything to play for, especially in the bottom, and these are potentially, could be our 5th and 6th team, and they currently are, so they want to definitely keep those spots, so getting some wins and W's under their belt to get some distance away from Rascal Jesters and Axis would definitely be beneficial for them here. Gentlemen, I believe it's about time for us to get into the pick and ban phase. Before we do, though, last quick question. Any champion expectations for this week? Is there any champion you're hopeful to see?
I want to see more Wukong out of both these teams, and I want to see some Karma as well.
Ooh,
Wukong and Karma.
Sure.
We've got a lot of really good brawlers in the LJL, and I wonder whether a Volibear might be a pickup for some of our top lane jungles.
Rework Volibear. I could definitely see jungle mid lane. You've got the opportunity, and it's seeing a tiny bit of play out there. So tiny bit being more than 0. So I mean, definitely on the table.
Absolutely. We talked about it on the podcast too. Go listen.
We did indeed. That's why I'm not going to spoil it. Episode 20 now out of the podcast. Go listen. But watch our games first. Anyway, gentlemen, let's go over to pick and ban phase. Good luck to both these teams, and well, enjoy the cast, sirs.
Always. Pleasure as always, Mass Swan. Thanks again for hosting. King of the LJL content, I swear. Anyway, we are here. It is, of course, myself, Inishnice, and Nymera, as always, and we are here to cast you some League of Legends, specifically SoftBank Hawks Gaming versus Burning Core. And, of course, the Hawks will be taking on the blue side this time around. I nearly said yellow because they're yellow is their color, but that's wrong. And they are, in fact, on the blue side.
Damn these team colors.
Damn these team colors, but not the players, because there's some very interesting ones here. It will be Aramik still in the top lane, Tussle in the jungle, Dasher in mid lane, and then Honey and Pooh as the bot lane duo.
Whereas on the other side, we got Burning Core. You know them, you love them, they've been around for a while. This roster is Rayfaki, Once, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Yuhi, and Proud.
And that is 3 straight carry jungle bans from the Hawks.
They've identified the threat. Once was our week 2 overall player of the week, and also the jungler of the week as well. But going back towards pick and ban at the end of this, first pick is that Aphelios. It's taken away from Yuhi over something like the Ezreal or the Callista.
That is actually really big. We know that Yuhi has shown, generally speaking, a higher level of performance on Aphelios than anything else. We've been over that a few times. But with those sort of hyper farming, scaling junglers, like the Kindred, the Graves, the Echo, what will once go towards, it will be his Lee Sin.
Okay.
This guy has put out some utterly ridiculous performances on Lee Sin. He has also come mid-game, thrown away games utterly on Lee Sin. So I will be curious to see. He has got that 1v9 mentality. Sometimes that 1v9 mentality makes he becomes a 0v10.
Yes, that is something to keep on your mind. Keep on your mind. The set locked in for Burning Core as well can be top lane, it can be support. We know that Ray Farkey was one of the first players of set in this region. Whereas on the other side, wasting no time, the Hawks lock in Trundle for that jungle, and then the Thresh for the Aphelios lane.
I will also say I think Tussle here plays a really good Trundle. I love the way he plays Trundle. It's something he's played for years and years and years. The one win the Hawks have had was on Tussle being a great frontline Trundle, just buying up loads of time. So I'm kind of happy to see him go back towards that, especially if they want to not rely on Aramik being the only tank. So it will be the Ashe locked in here for Burning Core.
The only other Ashe game we have seen was Crest Gaming Act playing it versus the Hawks. And that was into the Ezreal. They picked it into the Ezreal first pick and denied that Yuumi, and then they played alongside a Bard. So we'll see what Burning Core want to play alongside this Ashe in the bot lane. Could be that set.
Not to read too much into it, but there could be just something of saying, well, Hawks, do you even have an answer to this? Do you feel the Aphelios plays well into that? I think Aphelios and Ashe is an interesting duo to be looking up against, generally speaking.
Because the Aphelios has no mobility in himself. If he's ever away from Thresh, he's in danger, which means that he can't farm solo, and that means that he can potentially lose some waves, some farm, because he doesn't want to walk up to a wave. Going into the second round of bans, Darius has been banned away from Ray Farkey. So the Hawks paying homage to Ray Farkey's signature pick, whereas Dashel has had Twisted Fate and LeBlanc taken away from him.
That's 4 bans towards that mid lane, and I suppose Varus, strictly speaking, can be flexed there. This is the LJL. We know what our mid laners like to do. So with the Mordekaiser last ban, AP Darius, so to speak, we're going to see where this goes. Top lane and mid lane focused, respectively, for Hawks and Burning Core. Where are you expecting this to go? Maybe the Bard pick again for Proud, I suppose, if they want to flex that set top?
Potentially. It's not going to be that, though. It's going to be the Blitzcrank. He's played it before in spring. He's bringing it out again now in summer. Dedicated CC from the bot lane. Pick into pick. It's going to be interesting to see where the skill shots land.
On the opposite, it's not really so much skill shot as wombo combo team fight options, Moonlight Vigil, to go on top of a Cyclone, and topping off that Cyclone is some more inclement weather, Winds of War from a Q, and a heroic entrance from that Galio as well, locked in for Dasher.
No, that's some wombo. That is some wombo, going in with the Cyclone, going in with the Galio ult as well. It's talking about Burning Core hovering over that Volley Bear. We talked about it briefly in the pregame. Could come out right now, being put into that. But then, of course, the set has already been locked in, so we're looking for a mid laner or a top laner, of course.
We're back.
We are back, yes. So, the Galio, yes, normally goes Spellbook nowadays because you're not building so many flat resistances. You get less out of that rune due to those preseason changes, meaning that it's meant to be for tanks, not for people that want to be tanks.
So Lysandra is, in fact...
Lysandra and Galio.
Is a little bit more melted.
Are exactly in that position. What that means is that Spellbook gives you better functionality and gives you all the inspiration runes, which Galio loves so much, like those dematerializers and time warp tonic for those extra potion duration.
I have to say, it feels like most mid laners are running Spellbook at the minute. Like, I'm seeing a lot of Spellbook mid right now.
A lot of them have the ability to do so. I mean, Zoe, for instance, has that ability. Orianna can do as well, but Phase Rush is also very important to a lot of mages, gives you that slow resist, and the ability to disengage from certain situations that you might find yourself when you are being ganked or in a team fight. Of course, in this game, doesn't really apply to the set. He can go for that Phase Rush. Spellbook is not something on the table for him, though. Prefers that Conqueror for that extended trading potential and the damage that comes with it.
Look, when Spellbook on Fiddle in the Jungle is considered meta, I kind of refuse to believe it can't be found in nearly any role with any champion. But here we are. I know, obviously, it is.
The thing about Spellbook, it's much like Omnistone in the way that people who take it don't really care about their keystone. So someone like Bard
Sure.
could potentially take it, I guess.
Yeah.
Although, no, he has different functionality. But
We've seen a few sports run spellbook, in fairness.
one or two we've seen. I remember watching a PCS spot actually where there was a spellbook Thresh. I'm not so certain about that kind of thing. I think that Aftershock and Guardian in the bot lane are
So
very
strong.
much the way to go. And of course, when you've got a poke champion in the bot lane like a Karma, I think that Comet is far superior. When you can run a double Comet even, then it becomes even more powerful because it is stacked up with your AD carries keystone as well. Of course, in this game, though, we've got more of that burst DPS rather than the poke out from the AD carries. The Conqueror on the Aphelios allowing him to stack up all those stats early. When you have that Severum, you use the Onslaught, you just keep wailing on someone and your Conqueror becomes available very, very quickly.
Very quickly indeed. There are some of those champions that just stack Conquer really damn fast.
Yeah.
Specific combos for Aphelios certainly do that. I'm thinking
Yes.
Severum Chakram
I'm
is
thinking
pretty interesting.
I'm thinking Gango versus Sengoku in those
yes.
late game fights.
Oh my
That's what I'm
days.
thinking.
Well, we are going to see whether Honey has put 200 years of practice into said champion to find all those abilities to conquer a stack. Dashwood's also, though, wandering up to try and find once. Actually, I think he's in trouble here. Does just about get out of the taunt radius, but no, I thought he was out and he wasn't. He's going to have to flash away now. That's called force the teleport out of Ujeo, who's going to now go straight around back to mid. He was going to want to teleport back that way anyway, so not too much.
Actually,
burn for
nothing's
him.
lost there.
But once his flash being down is a little bit riskier, and that was a hook that just went wide over against Tussle.
Even with the buffed ranged, Blitzcrank not managing to land that hook onto Tussle might have started up something in that bot lane river. However, with the teleport already channeled from UJ, he would have had to take the long walk down to see if he could contest. What that means, the Hawks pick up first dragon.
They do, and with once forced out, and of course, as we said, the usual teleport down, it's easy as you like. Good early moves from the Hawks here.
They found themselves an opening in this game, had some, well, not really laning advantages, but the skirmish advantages, which came from that brief moment in time. There was no angle for once to gank any of these lanes after that first look into the mid lane. Dasher having burned the heal in that last play, though, maybe an option there now for this Lee Sin, who has, of course, almost reached that ultimate point, that level 6. That's when the burst really comes out of these combos. When you've got Dragon's Rage into the Showstopper under turret, it's a lot of displacement.
Well, you mentioned it, and there it is. If we can see the flash facebreaker, or hell, just a regular facebreaker, we could see a very dead Galio, who has burned the heal as well, I think, possibly for the move speed to get up to once.
He might have also done it on the retreat as well. I'm trying to remember.
Quite possible.
I'm not
Either
sure
way.
I'm not sure we're going to see a replay of that, but yeah. So it was used somewhere in that skirmish, either for the gap close or for the gap open.
Indeed. I mean, it's the way that Galio needs to play these days. Nimbus Cloak is so key to the way he gets in range for taunt, because obviously you can't flash taunt anymore.
I'm not even sure if he does go Nimbus Cloak on the spellbook build.
Does he not?
I'm not entirely sure. I know you can. But however, Nimbus Cloak is on the same it's on the same tree as Mana Flow Band, which can very much help your early lane, and that's nice because Galio does have really high mana costs. HP costs, though, might be coming in here as the blood sports begin. Junglers see each other.
And this is a thing that once has been known to do quite a lot, which is namely invade ad infinitum. Tussle, though, is wise to the Lee Sin's ways and goes and does a little flank and forces once away from this. And that's good news for the Hawks. And the reason this is happening, of course, is the Rift Herald has spawned. That means Honey and Pooh have rotated up. Yuhi is not here, though, and that means that once again, the Hawks will have priority over this Herald, or rather the objective in general. And they're going to start this one up.
It's my new favorite phrase. Good heavens, look at the time. It's 8 minutes. Herald time.
Herald time. It's not quite clutch gaming 10 minutes.
Herald time.
And yes, there we go. There's no hammer in this game. There's no Poppy, but the Herald time will have to do. Dasher is around the corner here as well. Ray Farkey is around, and Yuki has now roamed up. This is going to be a massive fight. There comes the Moonlight Vigil, and first blood goes over to Galio. Yujo now in desperate trouble, going back in with the Showstopper. Can they find enough damage at the end of it? No, because Tussle deletes the set, and it's already 2-for-none in favor of the Hawks. Ray Farkey flashes out, and the Herald is secured. Hawks come away with everything in that fight.
They do. Once, of course, didn't have that flash, and that turns out to be key in that confrontation. No way out after the taunt comes in once again from Dasher. We talked about how he can make these plays. Turns out it doesn't matter if he's on an Aurelia or a Cork. He can do it on the Galio as well. Locks up the jungler, gets the kill. The fight turns around onto Yu-Gi-Oh as well on the set. It's going to be the Herald, going to be plates, going to be kills.
It is. We've got plates coming up. Once and Rayfaki now trying to make sure that the bot lane of the Hawks can't push down any further. And Honey's just cleaning up the last of that wave before they go for this reset. Not going to use the Herald straight away, are the Hawks?
No, they're not. So we're going back into this replay. Dasher finds himself a really good flank here. Gets a flash double taunt onto the mid jungle of Burning Core. The pillar comes in, burst comes in. Honey is stood waiting to put down that DPS, and Yuhi doesn't have that same level of damage yet. But whereas, the Aphelios, even in the early game, has that Moonlight Vigil, which is so very, very strong. Brayfalk has to flash out the back of the pit as well. Hence, that's maybe a thread to pull up in that top lane. Things looking good for the Hawks.
Well, threads are being pulled by the Hawks, and Burning Core's early game is pretty much unraveled here. They're down about 1,000 gold. They're down the Herald. They're down a Drake. That's not a good space to be, especially when you're kind of playing the Lee Sin, which you wanted to get some picks with early. You wanted to duo up with something like the Maokai, with the Set, with the Ashe, and get something out of your level 6 marks.
And the thing about Burning Core is that they really are waiting for their Ashe to come back online. But Ashe is not the highest DPS champion from behind. She needs to get to 2-3 items before she starts really carrying these fights. And Yu-Gi-Oh is not going to be putting that much damage in himself. He's not on a core. He's not on Cassiopeia or some of these scaling higher damage mid laners. He's on a set. And it's a set going Barmy's Cinder first, too. He's not even going for something like the Triforce. He is not going to be able to make up for that damage deficit, particularly because his jungler's behind, too. Once already going down for that first blood, not looking so good for Burning Core because they have relied on Once to carry so many of these mid and late games.
Burning Core might be playing the Blitzcrank, but the Blitzcrank bot is feeling a bit pessimistic for the squad that picked him. 67% chance for the Hawks to win going off stats here, which is pretty telling considering where that early gold advantage is.
Look into the mid lane now. Yu-Gi-Oh potentially looking for something onto Dasher.
All right, can they get the hook? They do find it, and with the taunt down as well, Dasher now in a lot of trouble. There is the showstopper back, and that was a combo we were more expecting.
Yes, it was. Turns out it's not the Dragon's Rage which starts it off. It's the hook from Proud. He comes up big. And however, in response, the Hawks are going to summon that Herald into the bot lane. This could be a wraparound.
Tussle took a couple tower shots there as well. Actually, once looking for it, hits the Sonic Wave. Resonating Strike is in, forces a flash out of the Trundle. Now here comes the Nature's Grasp. Can Rayfaki find anything? Not really, because it was a bit of an awkward angle. And that means that Burning Core and the squad will move over to this Ocean Drake, but not before seeding 4 turret plates in the bot lane overall.
No, that's still kind of a net win for the Hawks in some ways. It's more even, perhaps, than they would have liked it to be. Having to expend that flash on Tussle on the Trundle means that, once again, we saw how that worked out for Lee Sin once in that last Herald fight. Maybe something to exploit from Burning Core.
Okay, so moving in, 2 Drakes have gone down. That Herald has been summoned in bot lane. So let's just take a little bit of stock about where teams and items are. It's part complete for both the Aphelios and the Ashe, which is nothing too much to write home about. But it is completed jungle items for both of our junglers. And perhaps quite powerfully, this Galio does have a Proto Belt and a stopwatch. That's a lot of playmaking potential and early burst out of the mid laner of the Hawks.
I love to see how various players use their one-use stopwatch, because it is that massive impact or non-impact for one time only. You get to use it, it breaks, and then you have to move on to that Zhonya's Hourglass, which of course Dasher will be going towards, but the next fight could determine the flow of the game. It could get you the next Herald, it get you the next Dragon. Heck, it can get you towers and open up the map for later plays around Baron too. So Galio, stopwatch, keep an eye on it, see what happens.
Here we go. Teleport coming down. Hero's Entrance coming down. They're not even going to use it under the turret. They're just going to come for the dive. Yuhi is left all alone, and Galio might have time, but that Ashe certainly doesn't.
All out of time. Yuhi goes down. It doesn't burn the flash, doesn't burn the cleanse. So that does mean that there's a teleport and there's an ultimate expended for the Hawks, but it is still the kill going over.
It'll be plates traded top and mid for Burning Core, so at least they're getting something back. But first turret will be Honey's as a result of the dive down bot.
And oh, so sweet is it on that AD carry. But however, tower trade will be available in the top lane for Burning Core. That will be shared between Rayfaki and Once. The plate's unfortunately not available for that very last one.
Okay, so once again, checking in, that is now a 1,500 gold lead, which is pretty big again for the Hawks, who have had some suspect early games. They really have when they've been contested. The one game they did when it was off the back of Dasher and Tussle kind of running over the early mid 2v2 and getting out to other lanes. it's just been a little bit more clean macro, honestly, from the Hawks this game around.
Has been. The Burning Core have not respected a lot of what the Hawks can do, particularly with this composition. When you have someone who clears very well as the Trundle and can be just available everywhere on the map, and having that backed up by two huge team fighting solo laners, and they're abusing their level 6 spikes very well so far.
Well, Herald number 2 has now spawned. Burning Core going to look to try and turn us around with some of the mechanics here. Yujo is not here. He's not super far away either, and Dasher is sort of caught under turret at the minute with the wave shoved in by Yuhi. So we have got a 4 versus 4 with mid laners still kind of out of the picture. Yu-Gi-Oh is roaming up. Herald's about half HP. We're going to see whether Wands can get the steal, but look where Aramik is around the top side of the screen. He's off vision, has Cyclone, could come in for a massive flank. Rayfaki has burned the ultimate. The roots are coming through. The cats are binding everyone down. Burning Core are going in. The showstopper is there, and the Hawks are going very low, but a good stopwatch saves the life of Pooh for now, and Dasher comes in and claims 2 at the back end with the help of Pooh, and it's a 3-for-1 in the favor of the Hawks, despite the engage from Burning Core. Now Rayfaki is running away, but Severum Crescendum is trying to tear down the tree. He comes out with half HP. Not enough damage on the Aphelios as yet, but he will be happy with 5 assists overall in this game.
And even though Honey is more like a paper cutter than a chainsaw to Rayfaki on that Maokai at the end of that fight, doesn't matter when the rest of your team's dead. All the damage is gone. Yuhi gets taken out by a timely Cyclone flank from Adamic. The Herald also used to break down that mid lane outer turret, that stalwart bastion in so many different games. Hawks winning slightly in the early game, now moderately, maybe into something more significant than even that. Everything is going their way so far.
And I made a call that, Dash is on a Galio. Maybe he won't be the character. He's 4-1-1 right now. And let's just have a look at this replay again.
Okay, so Rayfaki tries to force the issue, force the hand of the Hawks here using his ultimate early. It does mean that there is a delayed flank from Animic. He doesn't necessarily get the perfect Cyclone, but with the Flash, with the Nimbus Strike as well, it is enough to finish off the backline of Burning Core. And once Yuhi is down, we've talked about it. He is the one carry right now. Once gets a pick onto Tussle at the very end of it, but it's a trade for his own life, and it's a massive team fight win for the Hawks.
With Burning Core now down 3,000 gold, that is a pretty scary point. And yeah, Honey is doing some of that shrinking of the health bars right there. That is a Gravitum down and a flash hook from Pooh. Stylish! And it will force the kill onto the Blitzcrank, who is now just nuts and bolts. UJ over the back, though, is going in for a massive face breaker. Yuhi's untouched, but Tussle's going towards him, doing a lot of work. And once slays the Aphelios. Burning Core turning this around a little. Dasher now out of position, use the heroic entrance, but maybe he's entered too deep. And this will be a swift exit to the Death Realm after the Hawks get onto that one. But wait, Tussle is here. He gets a kill on the return. Aramik now goes down for a triple to this set. Burning Core continuing to trade on. There is the ward hop forward, and this Trundle must run away from the god fist of this Lee Sin. Just beating him down, hits the Sonic Wave. There is no way out. And that is an ace for 2 somehow, some way from Burning Core.
Flash hook from Pooh looked so stylish at the start of it, but the play turns against them. We're going straight back into the replay. It's a hook out of Fog of War from Proud, which misses. The Gravitum comes in to set up the hook. Flash forward, lands onto the Blitzcrank, but that's not the important carry that you want to take out. Yu-Gi-Oh! Watch what he's doing on the side. Watch still. He comes in, Flash, 4-man Facebreaker. The CC onto the entire group of the Hawks. Honey dies very quickly once putting in the damage to take down the Aphelios, and then even with the Cyclone taking out Rayfaki and Yuhi, it's just not enough to stop this huge follow-up Facebreaker from the Showstopper as well. Yu-Gi-Oh! Really carrying his weight right now.
That was something to behold from the new mid laner. We've been asking Yu-Gi-Oh! To step up. That was one way to do it. Flash 4-man Facebreaker into a teamfight victory when your team was looking a little bit lost, a little bit out of sorts. That's a way to do it. Hawks are still up 2,000 gold, but Burning Core with a pretty good response there in the mid lane. Don't get a lot. Oh, they do get a Drake out of it. Actually,
yeah, they get a dragon. It gets them. It's the Infernal Rift. They have themselves their second dragon now, and it's really big that they expended so many cooldowns on the side of the Hawks in that fight too. Of course, they're all back up now, but there's now no flash on Honey. That's something which we need to keep an eye on as well. Well, no, sorry, there was none in that fight either, which is why it went so easily. Also worth noting that Dasher tried to use the peeling ultimate there on Galio. He tried to. It just wasn't enough to save his AD carry.
No, it wasn't. And you can sort of see that big collapse of the gold lead there. It was up nearly 4,000 gold for the Hawks, and it's down to about 2. It's still a gold lead, don't get me wrong, but we can see where the pressure is once now over the wall, looking to come for a fight. But Tussel's found another good position on sort of counter-ganking once. He's been pretty good at reading what this jungler wants to do this game.
Okay, Blast Cone over the wall from once, playing that battle ward, finding the other enemy, well, the other enemy champions with his own 2 eyes. Down there in the bot lane, just shadowing Rayfarky, seeing if any play was there to be made or countered. However, as you were saying, Tussle was also on that side of the map. Worth noting now that actually most of the team of Burning Core have that forward, they're raising their forward percentage. They're finally on the other side of the map, playing up in these lanes after that big fight in the mid lane.
Starting to play around vision a little bit here in the rivers as well. They've got a lot of pick. We know how that works with vision. Namely, if you can't see it coming, you get it picked a lot easier. Blitzcranks from Darkness are a terror to behold. I think anybody who's played the game for any length of time can tell you that. And that's kind of what Burning Core are starting to index into a little here. For the Hawks, though, it was a rough team fight. But with Honey up towards this Infinity Edge, with that Zeal in inventory as well, he's getting to a pretty strong point. This Wukong has hit an item and a half as well, so that's good news there. There are worlds where that team fight goes differently now. They do have the tools to beat Burning Core in a team fight, especially if Burning Core can't find the pick early on.
And make no mistake, Aphelios is still very strong on this path as well. So Honey is in a position to turn around these team fights. There is no Ornn on the field, no Molten Edge available to the Aphelios. We saw that with Gango, as we keep talking about. What a huge game that was in Game 8 of Week 3. Honey will still be in a position to shred through this team of Burning Core, though. Yuhi is gone for the Ninja Tabi. He's not going to be in that high DPS state. There is he's pretty much down an item as well. You're right, and at least there's the Black Cleaver out from once. He'll be buffing up the damage of both Yu-Gi-Oh and Yuhi if he gets onto a target before they start wailing on them. But I'm not sure that's enough to match the damage of the Hawks.
No, when your carry is kind of an item behind the opponent's ADC, that is a difficult position when you're supposed to be the main carry. Actually, that pillar nearly put Yuhi into the death chamber. Does manage to escape just about with a swift retreat up the mid lane.
Yeah, never mind a pillar. It's more like a gravestone. If placed correctly there was still the flash and the cleanse away from you. He could have had those extra tools available, but saving those for the next team fight. We've seen how big they've been in the last few. It's important to preserve your tools on both sides here.
Okay, we're looking for a bit more engaged. There comes the Ash Arrow, but the turnaround is absolutely absurd! Make that a sequel. Rick Moranis, where are you? Honey, I Shrunk the Health Bars Mark II.
That's the power of the Caliber Mult. You come in for an extra auto attack reset. If you manage to stack up your chakrams, you have huge auto attack DPS. It is the highest DPS weapon that Aphelios has, and the DPS comes in thick and fast onto Yuhi. The safeguard came in from once. It just wasn't enough.
What? That was just absurd. We were just saying, yeah, Yuhi's kind of just survived. He's going to be just fine.
He had Ninja Tabi. He had Ninja Tabi.
Well, you're down an item, you're down in levels, and you're down another death. 0, 4, and 5. This is not a good look for an AD carry. We've seen struggle over recent weeks, and when you are supposed to be the damage in your team, this is concerning for Burning Core.
That being said, we've had some questions about Honey as well in the past.
We have.
So we've said, his misfortune last split, kind of meh, even though he played it so much. He's been struggling with his positioning, not managing to make those big outplays. Give him Aphelios. We saw even back in week 1 of spring, we had some hope for him because we know what he can do on this champion, much like what Yuhi can do on the Aphelios too. You take it away from Burning Core, you give it to Honey. It's a very high value pick in this game.
Well, it's bringing them out to a lead. It's 10 kills to 7. It is now a 2,500 gold lead once again. Proud may be looking for a hook, but hooking a Galio at this point in the game when he has got 5 kills may be a mistake, so I can see why that one was held off on. Once, kind of trying to get some vision. And this Lee Sin is still pretty strong at this point in the game, as we said. Completed Black Key for
Tussle.
4 kills there. Tussle out in a bit of bother, doing his own kind of engage. That was an interesting use of the pillar. And we'll move on. Maybe there was something there I didn't see. Maybe there was some reason for that.
Once ults him away. So again, that's something from nothing, really, all things said and done.
This feels like kind of the story of this game. Tussle's kind of been catching once not necessarily like off guard, but a little flat-footed sometimes, I think is the way to put it. And it's not like the Lee Sin has played badly, but it's not been the devastating performances we kind of saw from once last week.
You know, if you're flat-footed, you can't join the Navy. I'm pretty sure that's the thing.
Is that still a thing?
It was a thing.
It was a thing.
So it was about, keeping balance on a ship.
There you go.
Being flat-footed is it's hard to do so.
The ship of Burning Core is kind of listing a little bit here. It's not sunk as yet, but there are a few alarm bells coming, and there's some bailing that, I don't know, surface weapons officer once needs to sort out. needed a particular rank of sailor to come and save the ship of Burning Core.
Yeah, well, it's still afloat for now. Just about. There is no ocean rift. It's being dried up. It is the Infernal Rift, as we talk about, and the Hawks picked up themselves that second dragon relatively soon into this game. So no early soul for either team. We've seen that quite a lot through this week. None of the teams have really managed to get towards early souls.
Yeah, it has felt that way, and like with the two dragons apiece, Infernal Rift. So Infernal Drakes in general are no bad thing to be picking up, but it's probably 10 minutes at least away from anything like a Infernal Soul for either team, and that would be putting us over, over the 35-minute mark. And this sort of AI vote now with the Hawks up 53% feels pretty reasonable.
I'm gonna be honest. I think it should be more than that if you look at the items on the AD carries. We have finally have the 2-item spike from Yuhi, but he has had to stop off for those Tubby. We have a 3-item Aphelios in this game, folks. That's a solo carry if in the making. We've seen that from so many different Aphelioses across the globe, and of course in our own region too. You get into the thick of the brawl here. If Honey survives the initial engage, that's it. Team fight's over, go home.
At least the Hurricane is in now for Ashe, and that is a big deal in terms of just team fight output. When you do need to put out that amount of damage in a team fight, that makes some sense. But at the minute, Once and UJ are going to have to put in extra work, that double time to try and outdo what this Aphelios can be doing at this point in the game. Hell, this Galio has hit a point as well where he's doing a lot of damage. It's Death Dancing for Wukong as well. He is a big team fight threat. The Cyclone could be devastating, especially because Ashe is pretty immobile, and yeah, she's got to stop watching a flash, but if she has to burn them to get away from one Cyclone, it's not up there for the second bloody cast of the same ultimate.
Sure. However, on the other side, Honey doesn't have the same luxury there. It has himself the 3 DPS items, but if you do get caught up by Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Once, where's the rest of the damage going to come in from? Well, of course, Wukong last night. What he said is that what he loves about the Wukong is that it's pretty much the only top laner in the game that can solo carry in team fights and across the game as a whole. With 2 items now and the Tiamat on Aramik, he can definitely clean up these team fights if the team of Burning Core tunnel too hard onto that Aphelios.
And I feel we have to throw some praise up at Aramik, who's had a rough showing. He's been the weak side pinata, I think is the way to put it. He has been there as bags of gold to be beaten out of him by the various dives he endured versus the likes of
Sengoku really put him under the bus.
DFM as well. It was the set game again from Ebby that was just nasty. Actually,
that was versus Axis.
That was versus Axis.
No, it was Sengoku that sent him 0 and 6.
That's right.
With the TF roams towards top side.
Indeed.
But Burning Core have not played towards top this game. They didn't pick something like a Jace. They picked the Maokai instead, something which I don't mind out of Ray Farkey. Mechanically, he's a very competent top laner. We know that. In spring, he had a great showing.
Yep.
But he doesn't have the ability to have all the same pressure he could do. He's not threatening Aramik in that 1v1. It doesn't threaten the dive onto him either, so he doesn't have to be exposed on that weak side.
No, he doesn't. And I think we have seen Ray Farkey make some good teleports before on this Maokai. He won't need to use it here because an Infernal Drake is about to spawn very, very shortly. Aramik, though, is now wandering around. He'll be on vision, but Yuhi is in a bit of a difficult spot. Needs to be very careful, but Aramik won't find the flank, and Yuhi kind of in a bit of an awkward position. He's not going to be around for putting out DPS right now, but he's just so afraid of this Wukong, and I can't blame him for being concerned.
And watch out for Honey. He has himself the perfect zoning weapons. The Crescendum turrets are being set down in these choke points. Has the Calibrum on top of it, giving him those free auto attack resets. Once
With
has found
crescendo as well.
himself that flank. We're gonna have to see what. Look at the turrets; they're zoning so well.
They can. That arrow goes nowhere, and it's the Wukong who secures the dragon. And now the fight continues. Tussle is getting chunked out, but the hero's entrance is huge. Yujo's got a big shield, but it doesn't last for long enough. He's going golden, but he's not going to survive for long after that. Yuhi at precipitously low HP,
Yujo's
but he's got
down.
no way out. The Aphelios gets another, and it's 2 kills for none already, and now Once needs to run for the hills. He's going to hop over the wall, and that's likely the end of it. The Calibrum Q comes out, but sniper though it may be, that Lee Sin is far too far away. But we're 29 minutes into the game, Nightmare. That's 2 kills down, Nightmare. Baron's up, Nightmare, and I think the Hawks might be going for it.
I think they definitely will have a look over to it. Once is still alive, finds Tussle and is starting to brawl around the side, but he's going to have to look for a steal. He's going to have to look for a steal without his AD carry and without his mid.
Yes, he's the only damage here, as this Lee Sin, and Once needs to pull out a miracle here. Can he get it? He's going to have to look. He's got it!
Oh!
It was close, but it wasn't enough. Now he's over the wall, but Infernum shreds his health bar on the way out. He doesn't die to it. But that was a series of very unfortunate plays for Burning Core, and the Hawks come out with everything.
They do. And it starts with the crescendo. Look at these turrets. The auto attacks coming in from long range, seeing that Yujo's been zoned out of the side as well. Tussle is right in the thick of things with that ultimate coming. I want you to look at Yuhi there. He was trying to kite with his auto attacks running, but because he's trying to get out of maximum DPS, he doesn't actually step outside the Galio ultimate. Chooses to put down an extra auto attack, gets knocked up by that, and the follow-up CC comes in from Dasher, just deleting that AD carry. So potentially a kiting mistake from Yuhi, which does lead to his 5th death of the game, really having a rough time of it on the Ashe.
Yeah, and of course, there are lots of ways to get onto that Ashe pillar. It's very good against it because she can't get over it. We've seen Galio ults come in. We've seen the Wukong ults come in. It is hard when you are in a mobile carry like Ashe, but hard though it may be, that is what your team needs to do, or what your team comp rather needs to do if you want to win this game. And now versus a Baron, versus 5,000 gold in the deficit, it's getting harder and harder to do what you need to do on that Ashe.
Exactly, yeah, and we already talked about it coming into a couple of fights before that. Wow, Honey is an item up on Aphelios, one of the highest DPS champions in the game. Ashe has had to stop off for Tabby and has to go for Blade the Ruin King first. She's not even the best Blade carry. You sometimes go towards that Infinity Edge first, and admittedly there are some HP stackers on the side of the Hawks, but actually standing and firing against them has been so difficult in this game.
It's kind of a 3-1-1 right now. The Galio and the Wukong off in the side lanes, looking to be around an ability to respond to any fights. Yeah, Yujiro was around, but the Hawks were wise to his ways. Some good wards mean that they are aware of what's going on, and it will leave the rest of the outer turrets as easy pickings for the rest of the Hawks. They pick up all outer turrets now, and they are going to start moving towards sieging Burning Core's base. Burning Core have to try and hold on. They haven't got a lot of options left. Look for flashes. There aren't really many available outside of Yuju. Maybe you can find the flash facebreaker, but they're losing their base at a rapid clip. We're going to see whether Honey can move around now and find more inhibitors. They just found the top lane inhibitor, and Burning Core need to find a fight sooner. They're not going to have much of a base left to defend.
Well, they've already lost that top inhib, as you were saying there. I think this is going to be... Oh, Taunt lands onto Once, but he is safe right now. Has that Death Dance for that extra sustain. Things getting a little bit tense there, but it's all looking down the barrel. Is it for Burning Core? They're losing their jungle on the way out, and Hawks will go take their plunder, go back to base, buy some items, and come back for round 2.
Well, round 2 fight. It might not be the FGC, but we see enough combat in this game.
Is it mortal?
Well, feels like it. That Godfist Lee Sin is definitely feeling a little bit more mortal now. The game is a little later on. He has a stopwatch, has a Death Dance, as we mentioned, but Once it's got to find the God kick onto Honey, all right? I feel that the Hawks just run over any team fight at this point in the game, and bluntly, they got a 5,000 gold power play off that Baron. They are up 8, nearly 9,000 gold in the advantage. It's a death cap on a Galio who's 4 items versus a fairly tanky set, don't get me wrong, but that's not damage. Who has damage really to speak of in Burning Core?
You need to split up a fight and make sure that you're not shredded through yourself first, because it's about the damage differential, right? Because if Burning Core are there in a 5v3 or a 3v1 or something like that, then it doesn't matter how much damage the side Hawks has on any one member. But in a 5v5, the Hawks out DPS Burning Core every single time. Even if Honey makes his way into the middle of the team, he has an Aegis now as well. It'll take that extra second to kill him, but maybe giving that chance for the Galio ultimate to come in. Proud, Hex flashes over the wall, lucky enough to get out there.
Infernal Dragon has spawned. This will be Infernal Soul for the Hawks. This might be Burning Core's last chance to fight if it's not over already. Aramik on a ward, but is about and around. But Proud coming over as well with a Blast Plant, trying to keep that Wukong at bay. Keep your eyes on Wukong. Keep your eyes on Set. Here comes the arrow. They've got it on, but it's only on to Tussle. Can they get the kill? No, there is the subjugate
Aramik,
and Aramik is here in the backline. Here comes the hero's entrance as well, and the Maokai is already dead. Honey slays once, it's 2 down already for Burning Core. UJO falls as well, and Honey goes golden, but it's only going to save him for a second. Proud runs away. Hot Rod Blitzcrank can only run from his demise for a moment or two. Aramik will teleport into the base, and the Hawks will look to end this game 16-7 in kills. They bring down Burning Core, who've been on such a hot streak, and make us eat our predictions here a little bit. Hawks will move to 2 and 3 and bring down Burning Core to their level.
They don't even need the Infernal Soul to burn the core. That's the end of our first game of Week 3 coverage on our Day 2. We're going to have to go collect our thoughts. Join us soon.
And welcome back, everybody, to the LJL Officially Unofficial coverage of the LJL 2020 Summer Split. Gentlemen, we just saw the Hawks have a very solid game versus their rivals of Burning Core. They looked strong from the pick and ban phase. They looked strong throughout a lot of that game. And I think there are multiple different ways that we can take this. First off, though, let's talk about that pick and ban phase and how the Hawks lineup just seemed to be really well to deal with what Burning Core's plan was.
And the big thing for me is that Once didn't have the tools to just be the solo carry. He had to set up for the rest of his team, but the Hawks had a team which could just rally around one person who was in trouble. You have the flank from a Wukong, you have an ultimate from the Galio, made things very hard for Burning Core in team fights.
Yeah. I mean, go for it.
Go forth.
Okay. Okay, so I mean, with that, Once did just seem to have like an off game, had like some pretty early aggressive good moments, but then was never able to really translate that. Part of that problem was he was on that Lee Sin, right? Initialized. What do you think of Once's performance today?
It was looking a little bit rough in the early game, just in the fact that Tussle was kind of on what Once wanted to do. We've seen in the last week particularly, Once just invade. He spends his whole time looking for camps that are up to come and steal them away. And Trundle actually are pretty good at dealing with that early on. Turns up in the right place. He's got a Galio ult that can come and join him. Wukong would roam down when the blue buff was trying to be invaded. And that meant that Once could find the advantages he wanted. He did find a few early kills from a good couple team fights, and that's great news. But it wasn't the utter steamroll we've expected. So credit to Tussle for kind of countering the counter jungling. But Once couldn't quite get the huge advantages.
Maybe those bans that the Hawks brought out really came to hurt Once in that game. Well, I think that's fair to say as an analysis. Losing his Kindred definitely seemed to hurt him a little.
And the Echo.
And the Grapes.
And the Echo. Oh, yeah. So many carry junglers, so little time. Once didn't find it this time. Only has a 33 win percentage on that champion across his professional career as well. So, not brilliant. Let's talk and move it down to this bot lane as Yuhi just didn't seem to really find any momentum going into this game. But on the opposite side, Honey seemed to actually have momentum, and that Aphelios was having some strong moments, I think is fair to say.
It is, and you could boil it down to, AD diff, it's a bot diff. But it's also, again, if you're looking, we talked about Once and his the difference between the mechanics, well, the tools that he had available to him. Aphelios has so many different ways to play these team fights. Ashe really doesn't. And in fact, it got to the point where the Wukong flanked the Ashe one too many times, and Yuhi went, screw it, I'm going to go Ninja Tabi. Drops the DPS, though, and it means that you're not able to cut through these hyper tanks, even with the Blade of the Ruin King. Whereas the Aphelios, we saw in one fight, put out, 4 times the amount of damage as anyone else was doing in the team fight, and just taking over the game.
I mean, Honey was able to deal 6k damage. I think Yuhi dealt 1k. That can,
In that team fight,
yeah,
that's
in these two team fights, the problem is, as you said, that DPS just wasn't there. Move up to the top lane. Aramik seemed to have his first strong showing, more comfortable showing, was playing that Wukong and seemed pretty happy. What are your thoughts on that, gentlemen?
So part of it was the fact that he didn't have 3 people turning up in his lane all the time, and that is a
funny that
is a thing that can happen in pro play.
Hmm.
It is all well and good coming out of solo queue or coming out of a break from professional play, where you kind of just used to playing the 1v1. Maybe a jungler turns up in camps, you kind of outplay it. When it is systematic camping of a lane looking to put you out of a game,
Yep.
that takes practice and prescience, I think is probably the word I would use, to know when not to be in lane. And Aramik doesn't quite have that yet. He didn't have to worry about it so much. This game gets to turn up after an even laning phase and ult people with Wukong. That is what you need to do. It looked pretty good.
It did look good. It would have been interesting, though, to see Ray Farkey on one of his typical carries, so Aramik might have had more pressure in that lane, but seemed to have a easier lane against that Maokai and was able to come out swinging, especially bringing down a lot of those the boomsticks, as Wukong loves to do. Now, Mara, in our short momentary break, you really wanted to credit the Hawks with pretty decent macro, I remember.
I think it comes down to 2 big plays for me. One, it was the flash blown from once in that bot river, where we saw a really good play from Tussle, just being there at the right time. And then going into the first Herald as well, where everything started to fall apart there. And there was the big team fight when where once was picked off from a great flank from Dasher. But the way that happens in the first place is that you get to that objective first and you force them to funnel in through an awkward spot where they don't have vision. The Hawks knew where they had their vision, the channels of control that they had. They used it, they won the team fight, they ran over the game.
And they really did run over that game. That last part of the game, I did kind of notice Yuhi wasn't able to put out much DPS and just kind of got dove by Aramik. But the other thing I noticed towards the mid to end of that game was the support and the importance of the difference here. Proud, a support player that I was giving very high credit to last week, playing the Blitzcrank against this composition felt a little bit ambitious, I feel like.
It was a hard one. Who do you hook in is the question we began to ask ourselves, because you hook in a Wukong, and suddenly you have a Cyclone in the middle of your team.
That's not good.
You hook in a Galio, you have a Taunt in the middle of your
that's
team.
not good.
You hook in a Trundle or anybody else you behold. A Galio ults on top of you, and that's a mistake too.
That's not good.
So
Not sounding so good.
No.
there aren't a lot of good hookable targets, and even if you do hook someone, the Hawks can just pile on. And when your AD carry's not putting out the most damage either, you're not going to kill them that fast before people turn up.
Yeah, and that did seem to be the nature of that game for Burning Core, but congratulations to the Hawks for picking up that first game win and putting them into the same spot at least as Burning Core is currently sitting, but they've still got another game to wait for both of these teams, so everything can change. We're going to go on a short break and we'll be right back for our next game, which will be V3 Esports facing off against the Hawks. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back very soon.